What if I told you that the most powerful key to transformation has been hidden inside your body since the day you were born? Not in your mind, not in your beliefs, not in the books you've read or the mantras you've repeated, but in a silent place most people never think to touch. Imagine carrying within you a secret switch that could dissolve anxiety, release stagnant emotions, and awaken a clarity you have been searching for your whole life. This is not fantasy. It is real, and it begins in a part of you so overlooked that generations have walked past it without knowing it was the root of their disconnection. Think about it. How many times have you tried to change your life by changing your thoughts? You've tried to quiet the noise of the mind, to force new habits, to push against doubt and fear. But the more you struggle, the heavier it feels, as if something deeper resists. That resistance is not weakness. It is your body holding secrets your mind cannot unlock. At the very base of your being lies a bone, ancient and sacred, that holds the pulse of your existence. It was the first to form when you were still in the womb, and it will be the last to return to dust. Within it lives a memory older than your own name. It does not answer to intellect. It answers to movement. Every culture that touched the mystery of existence knew this truth. They danced before they prayed. They moved before they spoke. They let rhythm become the language of spirit. But today, we live trapped in the head, trying to think our way out of emptiness. And that is why so many feel stuck, disconnected, and anxious. Not because the universe ignores them, but because they have been trying to open the door from the wrong side. The truth is simple, almost too simple. You cannot rise if the foundation is frozen. And here is the secret few dare to reveal. When you awaken the silent rhythm at the base of your body, something extraordinary happens. Energy begins to climb your spine like a forgotten river. Breath deepens, presence returns, and reality itself seems to listen. For centuries, this knowledge was hidden behind symbols and silence. Today, you will not only hear it, you will feel it. Because what comes next is not theory, but practice. And once you discover it, nothing in your inner world will remain the same. There is a bone inside you that has been ignored for centuries, and yet it holds the most hidden power of your existence. Imagine carrying a treasure chest locked at the very foundation of your body, and no one ever gave you the key. You keep searching for answers in the mind, in words, in ideas, but all the while the chest is there, pulsing silently, waiting. This bone is not just structure, not just flesh and calcium. It is memory, it is vibration. It is the very first stone laid down when your body was built in the womb, and the last one that will return to dust after you are gone. Between beginning and end, it guards a secret. And here is the question. If something was considered sacred by the ancients, why have we stopped listening to it? The SACRUM. Its very name means sacred, and yet most people live their whole lives without moving it, without feeling it, without knowing that every blockage, every wave of anxiety, every sense of disconnection may be tied to its silence. You try to force your mind to change, to quiet the noise of endless thoughts. You surround yourself with objects of peace, with books and crystals, with mantras repeated in hope that something will shift. And yet inside you feel the same old heaviness. Why? Because you cannot build a tower of light on a frozen foundation. The base is asleep, and while it sleeps, nothing rises. This is not superstition. Think of your own life. How many times have you felt stuck? Like no matter what you learn or think or plan, you remain trapped in the same circle. Have you noticed how stress lives in your body? How it shapes your breath? How it anchors itself in your posture? What if that is not coincidence? What if your body has been trying to speak to you and you simply never knew the language? The sacrum is that language. It is a silent drum, and the beat has been muffled for generations. In the mysteries of old, this bone was never ignored. In Egypt, it was connected to the symbol of resurrection. In ancient initiations, movement of the hips and base was the first step, not the last. Because they knew, spirit cannot rise if matter does not open the way. But here is the irony. Modern people run after visions of the third eye, chasing the heavens above, while leaving the ground beneath them locked. How can you expect a river to flow if the source is blocked? How can you expect light to descend if the doorway is sealed? And here lies the conflict. We live in a culture that glorifies the mind and neglects the body. We are trained to believe that thinking harder will give us clarity, that discipline of thought will heal the soul. But what if clarity does not come from thought? What if clarity is the natural state that returns when your foundation vibrates freely? What if what you call anxiety is not a mental problem, but a physical silence at your base? This is the paradox that almost no one dares to face. The mind is not the king, it is the servant, and the true throne lies at the base of your spine. Listen carefully. This is not about exercise. This is not about stretching muscles. It is about unlocking the ancestral pulse that sleeps inside your sacrum. Science, even in its cold language, is beginning to recognize this. When the sacrum moves, cerebrospinal fluid is pushed upward like a wave. That fluid touches the brain, changing perception, awakening presence, reorganizing chemistry. At the same time, the vagus nerve, one of the deepest bridges between your body and mind, responds. Anxiety lowers. Heartbeat steadies. A sense of peace begins to rise. The ancients danced to awaken it. Today, you can feel it even with the smallest gesture. But here is where doubt comes. The mind will say, "Can something so simple really change me? Is it not too easy? Should not transformation be complicated?" And that is the trap. You have been conditioned to believe that truth must be difficult, hidden in libraries, encrypted in symbols, reserved for the chosen. But the sacrum proves the opposite. The truth is so close, so physical, so embodied, that most ignore it. You cannot see it with the eyes. You cannot think it into existence. You must feel it. And feeling demands presence, not complexity. There is another conflict you must face. Deep within this region of the body lies not only power, but memory. Trauma, shame, and silence are often buried here. To move the sacrum is to invite the return of what you thought was gone. This is why so many resist. They are afraid of what may rise. But ask yourself, is it better to carry hidden weight forever or to finally breathe free? Avoidance has never brought peace. Presence has, and the sacrum is the gate to presence. Imagine this for a moment. You stand in silence, eyes closed. You move your hips in the smallest circle, hardly visible. Slowly, a warmth begins to rise up your back. Your breath deepens. The chatter in your head softens. Something clicks, as if your body has remembered a song you once knew but forgot. That is not imagination. That is your foundation answering. It does not care about your doubts. It does not care about your theories. It responds to rhythm, to movement, to breath. This is the beginning of change. Ask yourself now, what if the universe has been waiting for you to awaken this pulse? What if all the energy you have been begging for, all the signs you have been chasing, all the clarity you have been demanding, what if it is already there, dormant, waiting at the base? What if the universe has been listening but could not answer because you never knocked on the right door? The sacrum is that door. And here is where the mystery sharpens. This bone, this silent foundation, has been known, named, and revered by traditions across the globe. Yet in our modern age, it is almost never spoken of. Why? Why has something so essential been silenced? Why has the very base of your being been erased from the conversation about spirit and healing? Who benefits from you never discovering the key inside your own body? These are not random omissions. They are signs that you are closer to truth than you think. Because truth does not need to be hidden in the sky. It needs only to be ignored here on earth. This is the invitation. To stop ignoring, to stop running away, to stop searching only with the head. The head has its place, but it is not the root. The root is deeper, older, stronger, and when you return to it, you return to yourself. The sacrum is the first home of your vibration. When it pulses, your whole being reorganizes. When it sleeps, you live in fragments. The choice is whether you are willing to awaken what has always been yours. And here is where the journey begins. Because once you open the door of the sacrum, once you feel the first wave of energy rise, nothing in your life will feel the same. You will see with new clarity that transformation was never far, never complicated, never reserved for others. It was always waiting in your own foundation. The ancients knew it. Science is confirming it. Your body remembers it. And now you are about to step into it. But before you discover how this awakening unfolds in practice, there is a deeper question you must face. If the base of your being holds this much power, what else have you overlooked about your own existence? And what happens when the very ground of your reality begins to vibrate again? For centuries, the greatest civilizations carried a hidden knowledge about the body that modern life has almost completely erased. They did not separate spirit from matter, nor heaven from flesh. To them, the sacred was not something distant in the clouds, but something pulsing beneath the skin. The Egyptians honored the sacrum as the invisible base of the Djed pillar, a symbol of resurrection and eternal stability. The Toltecs saw it as the drum of consciousness, the rhythm that gave the human spirit its beat. The Taoists located the lower field of energy at the same region, the womb of inner alchemy, where breath transformed into spirit. Across continents and cultures, one truth whispered: the base of the spine is not ordinary, it is the throne of life itself. And yet today, most people pass their entire existence without ever awakening this sacred throne. Think about how often you look for answers outside yourself. You chase new methods, new books, new distractions, hoping one of them will finally bring peace. You repeat affirmations with your lips while your body remains frozen. You sit in meditation but cannot silence the restless storm inside your chest. Why is it that peace feels so far? The ancients would say it is because you are trying to build a temple in the air without anchoring it to the ground. The foundation sleeps, and while it sleeps, nothing you place above it can last. Now imagine this in your own daily life. You wake up tired, even after hours of sleep. You feel tension in your lower back or tightness in your breath, but you ignore it, rushing into another day. You carry stress from work into your body, sitting for hours in the same position, cutting the natural rhythm of your spine. At night, your mind is heavy, filled with noise, but your body is rigid, unmoved. This cycle repeats until you start believing that being stuck is normal, but it is not. It is a signal, a message from the base that something essential has been silenced. You are not broken. You are unawakened. Consider the paradox. The ancients celebrated movement as prayer, while today movement is reduced to exercise, measured by calories and repetitions. They danced not to entertain but to connect with the divine. They moved the hips, the base, the sacrum, to awaken what words could not express. They knew that wisdom was not only in books, but in rhythm, breath, and presence. What if the very practices you ignore as primitive or unnecessary are the ones that can give you back your peace? What if the future of your own clarity is hidden in the forgotten wisdom of the past? There is a story told among certain initiates. A traveler entered a temple, seeking knowledge of the gods. He expected to find books, scrolls, or complex doctrines. Instead, the master of the temple told him to move in silence, to let his body speak before his tongue did. Hours passed in rhythm, breath, and simple gestures. When the traveler finished, his mind was quiet for the first time in years. He looked at the master in confusion and asked, "Where is the teaching?" The master simply answered, "You have already lived it." That story is not about the traveler. It is about you. Your body is the temple. The teaching is already written inside you. You only have to move to read it. Think now about the modern obsession with the third eye. Everyone wants visions, insights, signs from the heavens. But how can energy rise if the base is locked? It is like trying to light a candle without fire. The flame must begin at the bottom. The ancients never ignored this. They always began with the foundation. It was not superstition, it was physics of the soul. They knew that without the pulse of the sacrum, no vision could be trusted, no awakening could be stable. This is why so many seekers today feel fleeting moments of clarity, but cannot sustain them. They are trying to climb a ladder with no first step. And here lies the surprise. Modern science is beginning to confirm what the ancients already embodied. Studies now show that sacral movement influences the flow of cerebrospinal fluid, carrying vital signals to the brain. It stimulates the vagus nerve, the great bridge of calm and presence. When you move with awareness, your body releases chemistry that no pill can reproduce. Anxiety softens, clarity strengthens, and emotions reorganize. What once was hidden behind ritual and myth is now being revealed in laboratories. The language is different, but the truth is the same. The base is the throne. You may wonder, if this knowledge is so important, why is it not spoken of everywhere? Why has the sacrum, once considered sacred, been erased from our daily awareness? Perhaps because the simplest truths are the most powerful. They cannot be sold. They cannot be owned. They cannot be branded. The power is already within you, and when you awaken it, you no longer depend on external illusions. That is why this knowledge was hidden, because once you find it, you become free. And now I want you to pause and reflect. If you have felt stuck, anxious, or disconnected, is it possible that it was never your mind that failed you? Is it possible that your body has been waiting for you to remember? This is not about faith. It is about presence. It is about reclaiming what has always been yours. If you feel this truth touching something inside you, I invite you to take one simple step right now. Write in the comments, "I know the sacred movement." By writing it, you affirm that you are not just listening, you are choosing to awaken. This phrase is not decoration. It is a signal to your own mind and body that the time of silence has ended. And when you finish, look to the corner of your screen. You will see a red button. Only the chosen will click it. Only those who are ready to awaken their foundation, to bless their path, will press that button and join this circle. If you feel called, do not hesitate. Click subscribe, and let this be the first movement of your new vibration. Because when you begin with the base, everything above it transforms. And when you awaken the throne at your center, the universe does not remain silent. It responds. Science has long believed that the mysteries of the human spirit could be reduced to chemistry, that every feeling, every vision, every intuition was nothing more than the result of electrical signals in the brain. And yet, with every new discovery, the boundary between what is physical and what is mystical grows thinner. Researchers are now beginning to uncover what ancient traditions protected for centuries. The sacrum is not just a bone, it is a mechanism of awakening. When it moves, cerebrospinal fluid rises like a river of light, feeding the brain with a pulse it cannot generate on its own. The flow reorganizes perception, quiets storms of thought, and opens states of awareness that once seemed impossible. Imagine this, a gentle tilt of the hips, barely noticeable to the eye. Yet inside the body, a tide begins to climb. This movement pushes fluid upward, bathing the brain in rhythm, sending signals that regulate heart rate, reduce cortisol, and awaken the capacity for presence. Neuroscientists now call this somatic feedback, but ancient people already lived it as sacred dance. The body is not just matter, it is a code. And when the sacrum is unlocked, the code reveals itself in ways the mind cannot predict. But here is where the mystery deepens. Why does something so small affect us so profoundly? Why can a subtle movement of the base silence the chaos of the mind when hours of meditation cannot? The answer lies in memory. Your cells remember. Long before you learned words, before you shaped thoughts, your body already carried rhythms, pulses, vibrations that guided your growth. That memory is still there, asleep, hidden. The sacrum is the switch that allows you to access it again. The shift you feel is not something new. It is something ancient returning. Stop for a moment and ask yourself, how many times have you searched for peace outside of yourself, not realizing that your own body was already programmed to give it to you? How many times have you waited for signs from the universe while ignoring the sign that has been pulsing in your spine all along? Studies in somatic neuroscience are revealing something extraordinary. Movement of the sacrum stimulates the vagus nerve, one of the most important bridges between body and mind. This nerve connects to the heart, lungs, and digestive system, meaning that when the sacrum pulses, your whole internal state begins to change. Anxiety lowers, emotional balance returns, and the mind becomes receptive. In ancient language, this would be called harmony of spirit. In modern language, it is regulation of the nervous system, but the effect is the same. You come home to yourself. Even the pineal gland, long celebrated as the mystical third eye, shows changes when the body is engaged in conscious sacral movement. Neuroscientist Joe Dispenza has already shown that coordinated practices combining movement, breath, and intention can activate neurochemical states of expanded awareness. What mystics once described as visions or revelations may, in fact, be the natural result of aligning the base with the crown. The bridge is physical. The outcome is spiritual. The two cannot be separated. But what if this science is only confirming a fraction of the truth? What if there are layers still hidden, waiting for those brave enough to explore? Could it be that what we call intuition, clarity, or even destiny begins with this silent rhythm inside the body? Could it be that you are already wired for awakening, but simply have not moved the switch? The story becomes even more compelling when we consider the work of pioneers like Bonnie Bainbridge Cohen, who speaks of the body as a living archive of cellular memory. According to her, movement is not just mechanical. It is a way to awaken memories written in the very fabric of our tissues. The sacrum, being the root of the spine, is like the first page of this book. To move it is to open the beginning of your own story, and perhaps to rewrite it. Think about this carefully. How many of your current struggles are actually echoes of old imprints carried silently in your body? How many of your fears are not logical but physical, stored deep in places you never thought to touch? What if the anxiety you call yours is just a vibration waiting to be released through movement? What if transformation is not about forcing the mind to change, but about allowing the body to remember? Modern psychology often speaks of trauma being stored in the body, but few ask where. The sacrum is one of those vaults. It holds the unspoken, the unprocessed, the forgotten. To awaken it is to allow what was hidden to rise, not to overwhelm you, but to free you. And here lies the paradox. What we fear most to move is often what we most need to release. The very thing you avoid may be the very thing that liberates you. Pause now and ask, are you willing to face what rises when the base begins to pulse? Or will you keep locking the door, waiting for peace to come from somewhere else? What surprises researchers most is that such profound change requires so little effort. 3 minutes a day of sacral movement can alter your internal state in ways that hours of forced concentration cannot. The body responds not because you demand it, but because you finally listen. This is why ancient cultures placed gesture before word. They understood that truth is first danced, then spoken. So here you are, at a threshold that many before you have crossed. You stand between forgetting and remembering, between silence and vibration. The science speaks, the traditions whisper, your body waits. And the question is, will you continue searching for light in the sky, or will you dare to awaken the flame that has been burning at your base since the beginning? There comes a moment in every journey when understanding is not enough, when the mind has absorbed all it can and the body must take the next step. This is the point where philosophy becomes practice, where the invisible becomes visible through movement. The ancients never separated knowledge from action, because they knew that wisdom unexpressed dissolves into illusion. Now, you are standing at that same threshold. You have heard about the sacred bone. You have glimpsed how science is beginning to catch up with tradition, but nothing changes until you move. The body holds the code, and the only way to access it is through gesture. Small, precise, intentional movements that seem simple on the outside, but awaken storms of energy within. The first is the horizontal 8, a gesture so subtle it feels almost playful, yet its effect is profound. Stand with feet aligned and knees soft, and begin to draw the shape of infinity with your hips. At first it feels mechanical, but soon something shifts. The movement stops being external and becomes internal. The pelvis begins to loosen, the breath deepens, and the sacrum pulses in a way you may never have felt before. Many people report that after just a few minutes, a warmth spreads through the spine, and the noise in their heads becomes softer. This is not imagination. It is the nervous system recalibrating. Modern statistics reveal that more than 70% of people experience chronic tension in the lower back and hips, a tension that contributes to anxiety, poor sleep, and low energy. The simple act of moving in a horizontal 8 dissolves that armor and reminds the body of its natural rhythm. The second movement is the vertical wave. Here the hips tilt forward and back like the tide of the ocean. With every inhale, the base rises. With every exhale, it returns. This rhythm sends cerebrospinal fluid upward, bathing the brain in clarity. Neuroscientists measuring participants in controlled experiments observed that slow pelvic waves synchronize brain waves, creating states of deep calm similar to advanced meditation. What sages once discovered in silence, science now confirms with electrodes and scanners. People who practice for just 3 minutes a day report improvements in emotional balance, sharper focus, and even reduced feelings of loneliness. Loneliness is not just emotional. It is physical disconnection from the body. When you move the sacrum, you restore the lost dialogue between flesh and spirit. The third is the inner spiral, invisible to the outside eye. Lying down with eyes closed, the practitioner imagines a spiral moving within the pelvic bowl. It may sound abstract, but research into visualization and motor imagery shows that the brain responds to imagined movement almost as powerfully as to physical movement. In global studies of athletes and trauma survivors, visualization has been shown to rewire neural pathways, reduce pain, and accelerate recovery. Here, the spiral functions as a bridge between body and memory, awakening patterns you may have forgotten. Some feel subtle vibrations, others a deep emotional release, and some only a quiet stillness. All responses are correct because the body remembers in its own time. The fourth is rhythmic pulsation with the breath. Placing hands on the lower abdomen, one breathes deeply, expanding and contracting with gentle pulses of the pelvic floor. This micro-movement creates a wave that climbs the spine, activating circuits linked to perception and intuition. Studies on breath and vagus nerve stimulation reveal that such micro-actions can lower cortisol levels by up to 30% in just minutes. The global epidemic of stress is not just psychological, it is biological. More than 40% of adults worldwide report feeling stressed every day, according to recent surveys. This simple, quiet pulsation is an antidote hidden within the body itself, free, available, and waiting to be remembered. And then there is the fifth movement, not described as technique but as state. It is the moment when the gestures stop being mechanical and become natural. The body begins to move on its own, guided not by thought but by memory. This is where dance emerges, not as performance but as prayer. Across Africa, Asia, and the Americas, cultures preserved this knowledge through rituals of rhythm and movement. They did not separate healing from dancing, or worship from vibration. They knew that when the sacrum moved freely, the body became an altar and the spirit returned home. Today we have forgotten, reducing dance to entertainment, exercise, or art. But in truth, it is one of the oldest medicines known to humanity. Consider this. More than 80% of people globally do not meet the minimum recommended physical activity for health. Yet the body does not crave exercise. It craves rhythm. We are not designed to live stiff-seated lives. We are designed to move, to sway, to pulse with the earth. Every culture that ignored this truth collapsed into disconnection, while every culture that preserved it maintained a living bond with the invisible. The statistics speak loudly, but behind them are individual stories, people who rediscovered joy, presence, even relief from years of anxiety, simply by awakening the sacral pulse for a few minutes each day. This is not fantasy, it is embodied reality. But what happens when someone without knowledge stumbles upon this by accident? This is where the story of Samuel begins. He was not searching for awakening. He was not studying ancient texts or practicing rituals. He was simply tired, weighed down by endless days of pretending to be fine. One night, restless in his room, he felt an impulse to move his hips to the slow rhythm of a beat playing in the background. At first it was awkward, clumsy, meaningless. But then something strange happened. His breath shifted. His thoughts stopped racing. A warmth climbed his spine, filling him with a presence he had not felt in years. He did not know the names of the movements. He did not know their history. His body simply remembered. In the days that followed, Samuel repeated the experiment. He moved again, this time adding a vertical wave, then lying down and imagining spirals, then pulsing with his breath. Each time the results deepened. His anxiety gave way to calm, his doubts softened, and his inner silence, once heavy and suffocating, became alive, vibrant, filled with presence. He discovered what so many seekers miss. The path is not in adding more, but in awakening what is already there. Transformation does not come from the top down, from ideas to flesh, but from the bottom up, from movement to mind. Samuel's story is not unique. Across the world, people are rediscovering what their ancestors once knew. A survey of somatic therapies revealed that simple body-based practices reduced symptoms of anxiety and depression in more than 60% of participants, even when they had failed with traditional talk therapies. Movement unlocks what words cannot. Traumas stored in silence begin to dissolve. Confidence grows not as an idea, but as a lived vibration. This is why cultures preserved movement in ritual, because the body carries what the mind forgets, and yet many resist. Why? Because the pelvis is also the vault of memory. Shame, fear, and unprocessed pain often live here. To awaken it is to awaken what has been hidden. But ask yourself, is it better to carry a burden silently forever or to face it and finally breathe free? Healing does not mean reliving pain. It means transforming it into rhythm, releasing it into movement. Samuel did not become enlightened. He became present. That is the true power of the sacrum, not to turn you into something else, but to return you to yourself. The obstacle is not the technique, it is the conditioning. We have been taught that transformation must be difficult, intellectual, reserved for a chosen few. We have been trained to trust only what can be explained, sold, or measured. But the body does not need convincing. It only needs space to remember. And when it remembers, change is no longer theory. It is vibration. It is presence. It is life returning to its natural rhythm. So the question now is not whether the sacrum holds power. It is whether you are willing to experience it. Are you ready to move beyond words, beyond theory, beyond waiting? Are you ready to feel the code that your ancestors preserved, that science is beginning to rediscover, that your own body has never forgotten? Because once you step into this rhythm, you cannot go back to silence. Once the base awakens, the universe responds. There comes a moment, after hearing stories, learning practices, and feeling the echoes of wisdom, when reflection must turn into action. Part of you has already been stirred. You have felt curiosity, perhaps even a quiet recognition that this message was not random, that it reached you at this exact moment because something inside you was ready to listen. But now comes the decisive step. What will you do with this knowledge? Knowing is not enough. The body learns only when you act, and the universe responds only when your vibration changes. This is where we close the circle, where everything you have absorbed must become part of your life. First, understand this truth. You do not need to dedicate hours every day, or escape to distant retreats, or reinvent your life overnight. Transformation begins with minutes, with presence, with simple and consistent gestures. Think of the sacred movements not as exercises, but as rituals, small acts of reconnection. Begin with just one. Choose the horizontal 8, or the I, vertical wave, or even the silent inner spiral. Practice for 2 or 3 minutes in the morning before you check your phone or let the world rush in. Let the movement be the first thing your body remembers each day. Over time, increase the length naturally, but do not force it. The power is not in how long you practice, but in how present you are while you practice. Second, link the movements to your breath. Your breath is the bridge between the conscious and the unconscious, between the mind that tries to control and the body that already knows. As you move, inhale deeply, exhale slowly, and let the rhythm of breath guide your gestures. This will calm your nervous system and remind your body that it is safe to release. If resistance arises, do not fight it. Let the movement be small. Even a subtle tilt, even a gentle pulse, is enough to awaken the code. What matters is not performance but presence. Third, create a sacred space for yourself, even if it is only a corner of your room. Remove distractions. Dim the light. Let silence or soft rhythm accompany you. By repeating the practice in the same place, you anchor the memory into your environment. Soon, simply stepping into that space will signal your body that it is time to reconnect. Rituals matter because they train your mind and body to meet in the same vibration again and again. Fourth, keep a simple journal, not of thoughts but of sensations. Write down what you feel in your body after each practice. Warmth, stillness, tingling, peace, even resistance. All of it belongs. Over time, you will begin to notice patterns. You will see that what once felt strange becomes familiar, that what once felt heavy becomes light. This record will remind you that change is happening even when the mind doubts it. Fifth, extend the awareness into daily life. The movements are not only for the moments of practice, they are training for how you walk, breathe, and live. When you are stressed at work, pause for a moment and tilt your hips gently, unnoticed by others, and feel your spine respond. When you feel anxious, breathe into your lower abdomen and pulse softly with the exhale. When you feel disconnected, imagine the spiral inside you, reminding you of the memory you carry. These micro movements will slowly rewrite your day. They will become natural, effortless, part of who you are. And sixth, share the journey, not as obligation, but as expansion. Talk about what you feel with someone you trust, or simply write anonymously in the comments. Expression reinforces memory. When you name your experience, you affirm it. When you hear the experience of others, you realize you are not alone. Across the world, countless people are rediscovering this wisdom. Together, you form a living field, a community of presence. Connection multiplies transformation. The strategic plan is simple. Start small, connect with breath, create a space, record sensations, extend into daily life, and share your journey. Do this for 3 weeks, and you will notice shifts. Do it for 3 months, and your foundation will be transformed. What once felt like theory will become living truth. The sacrum will no longer be an idea. It will be your throne, your pulse, your anchor in the storm of life. And yet, even with all this clarity, you may still hesitate. The mind resists change. It whispers, "Will this really work? What if nothing happens?" But remember, the body does not need to be convinced. It only needs permission. Once you begin, your body will show you what your mind cannot. It will remember the rhythm, the pulse, the sacred movement that has always been yours. You are not learning something new. You are returning to what was never lost. So I invite you now, not tomorrow, not someday, now. Take a moment after this video to move, even if only for 1 minute. Feel your hips draw the figure of infinity. Feel your breath rise and fall with the wave. Close your eyes and imagine the spiral. Do it not as a test, but as an offering. Let your body answer. The universe listens to vibration, not intention alone. When you move, you send a command, and reality responds. If you have felt something awaken inside you during this journey, do not let it fade into silence. Anchor it, act on it, and share it. Leave a comment with your questions or experiences, anonymously if you prefer, so that your voice adds to the field we are building together. Click the red button to subscribe, because only those who choose to continue the journey will carry the blessing of this knowledge into their daily lives. Press like, because this vibration must reach others who are still searching. And remember, the sacred movement is not waiting in another place, in another time, in another life. It is here, now, in your body, ready to rise. All that remains is for you to take the first step,